Good morning, children. This is about kinematics. So, in last class, we entered into new unit number 2, which is called as kinematics. So, about that, I gave intro. So, it is called so. We discussed in our last class. So, we completed our class with the figure 2.4. So, up to we discussed in last class. And today we will resume our class with the topic called as point mass. So what is point mass? So where we are using? So actually it is we are using in objects which having the finite mass. We know what is the mass of that particular object, especially the object having finite mass. Then we can say point mass in that is the mass of any object, concentrated at particular point. This is called as point mass. So what it called as the mass of any object is concentrating somewhere. So where it is concentrating, this is called as point mass. Okay, so we can define like that. So we can define point mass is nothing but where the total mass is concentrated. So it does not have no internal structure like shape, size, and mathematically a point mass has finite mass. It won't give any dimension. So we can say the dimension of point mass is 0. Also the point mass is related term often simplifies in our calculation. So when the object is moving, we can say the object is in motion with the reference of frame. That kind of object's movement is followed with the help of this point mass. So if you know the point mass, it will be easy for us in various field to explain about moving object. So it is nothing but where the total mass is concentrated. This is called as point mass. So you mark answer for this 2-mark question. So from here the mass of any object assumed to be concentrated at a point, then this is idealized as the point mass. Okay, questions define point mass. Then we'll see here some example for point mass. So here the first example, we are analyzing the motion of the earth with respect to the sun. So how the earth is revolving around the sun? So sun is center in our solar family. All the other 8 planets are revolving around the sun. Earth is also one planet in that 8. So here earth is revolving around the sun in elliptical orbit. In this case, this earth can be considered as a point mass. If we are considering the earth is a point mass, distance between the sun and earth is very large compared to the size of the earth. So when we are comparing the distance between the sun and earth, the distance is very, very high. So that's why we are taken the earth. So actually we are on the earth. We are feeling we are நம்ம இந்த பூமியில நான் தான் ரொம்ப பெரியவன், நான் தான் கெத்தானவன், நான் தான் எல்லாமே தெரிஞ்சோம் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி நம்ம ஃபீல் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். பட் பூமியே ஒரு டாட் மாதிரி தான். when we are going higher and higher, when we are seeing earth from certain distance, it is like a dot. நம்ம பூமி ஒரு டாட்டா இருக்கும், அந்த டாட்ல நம்ம இருக்கோம்னா நம்ம டாட்டை விடவும் சின்னவங்க தான். சரி, this is the first example because the comparison of distance between sun and earth is very huge. Then here we are taking the point mass as earth. Then second example, if we are through an irregular object, there is no perfect shape of the object, like a small stone in the air, and here the motion is simpler to consider the stone as a point mass. It is moving to the space. The size of the stone is very much smaller than the distance through which it travels. அந்த ஸ்டோன் ட்ராவல் பண்ணுற டிஸ்டன்ஸ் ரொம்ப கம்மின்றதுனால we are considering that stone as a point mass. So point mass என்றது இதுதான்ன்றது இல்ல, where the total mass is concentrated. நம்ம compare பண்ணும்போது the distance is very large அப்படின்றப்போ sometimes the huge body like earth is also considered as the point mass. These are some example for point mass. Next is types of motion. In our daily life there are different kinds of motion. So we know what is motion when the object is moving from one point to another one point with respect to the time. So from time to time it is displaced from one point to another one point. So இப்போ பார்க்கும்போது நம்ம இங்கே இருப்போம், மார்னிங் வீட்டில் இருப்போம், ஒரு 10 o'clock வந்து ஸ்கூல் இருப்போம். ஸோ we are displacing. So in 2 hours 8 to 10 அப்படின்றப்போ 2 hours we are displacing from one point to another one point. This is called as moving. ஒரே பிளேஸில் கண்டினியூஸாக நம்ம இருந்துகிட்டே இருந்தோம்னா that is not motion, that is called as what? Rest. So there are different types of motions are there and that is explained here. First one is linear motion. What is called linear motion? So linear motion is nothing but an object is in a linear motion when it moves in a straight line. So ஒரு object straight line move ஆச்சு அப்படின்னா that is called as linear motion. We can give many examples. When an ant marching, the more ants are marching in a straight line means அதுவே sometimes ant பார்த்தா straight lineல போகாம ஒரு மாதிரி கர்வியாகவும் போக சான்ஸ் இருக்குது, இல்லை சர்க்கிளாகவும் போக சான்ஸ் இருக்குது. பட் we have to take the example of moving straight line. An athlete running on a straight track, a particle falling vertically downwards to the earth. These are the example for what? Linear motion. Good. Next, circular motion. When the object moving in a path of circle means ஒரு சர்க்கிள் மாதிரி ஒரு ஆப்ஜெக்டோட மூமெண்ட் இருந்துச்சுன்னா we can say the example. நம்ம வாட்ச் யூஸ் பண்ணுறோம்ல, ரிஸ்ட் வாட்சாக இருந்தாலும் ஓகே, வால் கிளாக்காக இருந்தாலும் ஓகே, அதில் அந்த மூவிங் நிடில் பார்த்தோன்னா அந்த எட்ஜை மட்டும் எடுத்துட்டோம்னா இட் கம்ப்ளீட்ஸ் சர்க்கிள். ஒரு கம்ப்ளீட் டர்ன் முடிஞ்சுன்னா இட் இஸ் கிவிங் ஷேப் ஆஃப் சர்க்கிள். லைக் தட் we can say the moon is revolving around the earth in a circular path. These are the example when the object is moving, it gives the path a shape of circle means this is called a circular motion. Example, the whirling motion of a stone attached to a string. String attached ஆயிருக்கு, இதுவும் circular motion தான். The motion of a satellite around the earth. So satellite, moon is also natural satellite. We can say ordinary artificial satellite too. For example, for circular motion, and see figure 2.5. The boy is whirling the stone is a circular motion, and here the satellite is revolving around the earth. This is also example for circular motion. Good. And third type, rotational motion. If any object moving like a rotational about an axis, the motion is called as rotation. Due to the rotation, every time on that object, each and every particle will displace from one point to another point with respect to the time. So there is a fixed axis. The object is fixed about the axis. இதுக்கு நம்ம நல்ல எக்ஸாம்பிளாக சுற்றிட்டு இருக்க ஒரு பம்பரத்தை சொல்லலாம். டாப். ஸோ டாப்பில் நிறைய பேர் விளையாடி இருப்போம். அந்த டாப்பை நம்ம ஸ்பின் பண்ணி விட்டோம் அப்படின்னா அந்த டாப் ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் பாயிண்டில் ஸ்டாண்டர்டாக இருக்கும். Same time it will rotate about the axis. This is the example for rotational motion. And here some examples are given. Rotation of disc about an axis through its center. Rotate ஆயிட்டு disc, ஒரு டிஸ்கை வந்து நம்ம ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணிட்டோம். So about the axis it is rotating. This is the example. Then spinning of the earth about its own axis. Earth rotate ஆயிட்டு இருக்கு about its own axis. This spin of the earth is also example for what? Rotational motion. Okay. And next is example for rotational motion. These two examples are given here. And next is vibratory motion. So this vibratory motion is nothing but the object is executes to and fro motion about a fixed point. It is moving, there is a fixed point. About the fixed point, it is moving like a to and fro. The particles are moving like a to and fro motion This is called as vibratory motion, and this is also called as oscillatory motion. Examples: vibration of a string on a guitar. Then we can say movement of a swing. These two are the example for what? Vibratory motion. So here the guitar picture is given. Then while playing the on swing, it is also giving the example for what? Vibratory motion. So here four kinds of motions are discussed. Other than that four types, there are possibility for elliptical motion. Example, we can say the earth is revolving around the sun in elliptical orbit. Then helical motion, we can say helical shape motion is also there. These are the possible while the object is moving from one point to another point. Next is motion in 1, 2 and 3 dimensions. Here we'll discuss about that. There are three kinds of dimensions. And in this motion 1, 2 and 3 dimensions, the object's motion is compared with the respect to the particular direction. So here the object is changing its position with respect to the time. So how it is moving? So while moving that with respect to the time, it is changing with respect to the time. While there, how it is changing along with the coordinate, and how the coordinate is helping here. So depends on that. There are four kinds of dimensions. Four kinds of motions may be there. One is motion in 1 dimension, then motion in 2 dimension, then motion in 3 dimension. So these three types may be acquire while the object is moving. So when it is changing with respect to the time, we can explain with the help of the coordinate system. So we know very well about the coordinate. So there are 3 axes. See, this is 3 axes. If we take x here, means it will be y, then z. Or else we can take this is x, then y, z. Or else we can take this is x, y, z. இது உங்களுக்கு ஞாபகம் இருக்கா? This is called as Cartesian coordinate. In physics, we are using the Cartesian coordinate in what direction? Anti-clockwise direction we are using in this. Okay, so using these 3 coordinates, we can refer the movement of the particle with respect to the time. That reference, that motion are called as motion in 1 dimension, then 2 dimension, last it is 3 dimension. So first we will discuss motion in 1 dimension. This motion in 1 dimension is defined as the motion of the object or particle moving along a straight line. If the object, for example, ஒரு athlete வந்து trackல ஓடிட்டு இருக்காரு, he is moving along the straight line, then this motion is considered as motion in 1 dimension. So for example, these are all 3 axes. This is the point. In the point இருந்து நம்ம கவுண்ட் பண்றோம்னு வெச்சுறோம். Suppose he is moving along this, இதுல இது x ன்னு எடுத்துக்கிட்டோம்னா, say y, this is z. Y and z are not compared. The movement of the particle, movement of the object or movement of the person is compared only along the 1 direction, means we can write this is called as motion in 1 dimension. What is this? This is motion along the 1 dimension. So this movement is referred with x-axis alone. There is no reference with y and z. This is called as motion in 1 dimension. So like that we can explain for z or y2. Okay, this is called as what? Motion in 1 dimension. And here good example is given in figure 2.8, and see this 2 coordinate diagram is drawn. This is x-axis and this is along the y-axis. Z is not given here, and this movement of the car is taken along the x-axis, and see the points from A to B. So initially the car is at the position of A, now it is at B, and this points A and B, between A and B, these 2 position, the movement of the car is taken along the x-axis. So only 1 dimension is discussed here, only 1 axis compared here. This is called as motion in 1 dimension. And some examples for motion in 1 dimension is the train traveling in the straight track. இதே train பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு கர்வியாவோ இல்லை ஒரு சர்க்கிளாவோ ட்ராவல் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்துச்சு அப்படின்னா இட் இஸ் நாட் அ எக்ஸாம்பிள் ஃபார் ஸ்ட்ரைட் லைன் மோஷன். இட் ஷுட் மூவ் இன் அ straight. The object falling freely under the gravity close to the earth. This is also example for the motion in one dimension. So I hope you all understood about motion in one dimension. Now we'll enter into motion in two dimensions. Here we can explain if a particle moving along a curved path in a plane, then it should be called as two-dimensional motion. If a particle is moving along a path, curved path in a plane, and here two axes are compared here. When two axes are compared, and this is definition for motion in two dimension. And here see the figure 2.9. In this 2.9, two axes are given, y, and this is z axis. See the position of the first particle or object or any person at the point P1. So at the P1 we are comparing along the y axis as well as z axis. Y la compare பண்ணும்போது எங்க இருக்காங்க, then z compare பண்ணும்போது எங்க இருக்காங்க அப்படின்றப்போ we got some answer. This is 1. And when the position of the object or particle at the point P2 அப்படின்றப்போ we are comparing with the y axis along also z axis, and see between the two position of that object is like a curve. So here this motion of the object will give motion in two dimension. So here two axes are compared, two Cartesian coordinates are compared here. So this motion, this movement of the object is called as motion in two dimensions. And here some examples are given for motion in two dimension. The motion of a coin on a carom board. So when it is moving like a curve, straight carom board pochuna, carom coin pochuna, it is not example for that. Curve move agano, an insect crawling over the floor of a room. So insect room floor crawl aayittu irukula. If it is like a curve means that is as example for what? Motion in three dimension. And next is motion in three dimensions. Here we can say a particle or an object is moving in usual three-dimensional space. If it is using all the three spaces, three coordinate axes means, and this is called as motion in three dimension. In this motion, this object or particle or the person is compared with all the three axes. So this is called as motion in three dimension. So in this, the particular object will cover all the three axes like x, y and z. So if it is covering all the three axes, it is called as motion in three dimensions. So in one dimension only one axis is compared, and two dimensions both. In three dimensions three axes. So I don't know Cartesian coordinate. In last class we discussed if the object's movement are compared with all the three axes means this is the motion in three dimension. An example for three dimension is a bird flying in the sky. The movement, the head is, the total body is moving along the x-axis, and the leg movement along the y, and wings opposite direction. Then we can say this is one axis. Next, then say x, y, z. The total body is moving forward direction. It is compared with the x-axis. Its wings are moving up, y-axis. Sometimes the legs are pulling. So all the three coordinates are compared here. This is the example for three dimension. A next example, a random motion of a gas molecule, then a flying a kite on a windy day. These are the example for three dimensions. Okay, now you mark answer for all these three. So first you mark motion three dimensions with example up to here. So from motion at three dimension irundhu windy day varaikku mark panikinga. Then for two dimension you mark from here to till the example room, till room. Then third question, motion in one dimension, you can mark up to here. Don't want this figure. Okay, and these three questions are for 3 mark questions. Right, explain about முன்னாடி மட்டும் ஆட் பண்ணிடுங்க. Then different types of motion. So different types of motion you mark up to here. Okay, up to here, sorry, இது வரைக்கும் நீங்கள் மார்க் பண்ணலாம். up to possible வரைக்கும் மார்க் பண்ணிங்க. And its starting is ஃப்ரம் லீனியர் மோஷன்ஸில் ஆரம்பித்து அப் டு எக்ஸாம்பிள் வரைக்கும். ஓகே, அது வரைக்கும் மார்க் பண்ணிங்க. திஸ் இஸ் 5 mark question. So from linear motion up to you can mark your answer till also possible. Okay, this is 5 mark question. Explain about different types of motion. And for today's homework, you write different types of motion with examples. Okay, so idila you can draw this alone, idu mattum, then this diagram. Okay, idu mattum podum in types of motion la. And in the answer alla thorough பண்ணிட்டு you write in your homework part photo எடுத்து என்னோட பர்சனல் வாட்ஸ்அப் நம்பருக்கு இமேஜாக சென்ட் பண்ணிடுங்க. ஓகே, தேங்க்யூ சில்ட்ரன்.